Word on the street is Disco Dan Bylsma will be the next head coach of the Seattle Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Erica L. Ayala coming to you just for a quick little bonus episode before the announcement we have later today. The Seattle Kraken expected to announce around 10:30 a.m. their next head coach. Now, word on the street is it is going to be our friend Disco Dan Bylsma, the current head coach of the Coachella Valley Firebirds, who, of course, are still playing in the AHL playoffs. This is per friend of the podcast, Ryan S. Clark, who now, of course, is with ESPN. The Seattle Kraken have called a news conference for Tuesday, which is when they are expected to name Dan Bylsma the second coach in franchise history. A source with knowledge of the decision told ESPN on Monday, confirming a report. Also coming in from our good friend Jeff Baker. Moments after another uninspired Kraken loss in Los Angeles in early April, moments after another uninspired Kraken loss in Los Angeles in early April, about half a dozen younger players gathered outside their dressing room for a quick meetup with the franchise's visiting AHL affiliate coach, Dan Bylsma. The players had all recently played for Bylsma, 53, with the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and it was tough not to notice their enthusiasm that night as they exchanged loud laughs in a group while then Kraken coach Dave Haxtell stood only 30 feet away with the media, somewhat awkwardly trying to explain his team's subpar performance that night. Whether Bylsma can generate better results with the current crop of Kraken players than Haxtell managed last season will be put to the test as the NHL squad on Tuesday morning will name him the second coach in the young franchise's history. Ooh, Jeff, with the recall. I freaking love that. So this is just a really quick bonus episode because unfortunately I already have an appointment and engagement at the time of the announcement. So unfortunately, Locked On Kraken, I will not be able to respond live in real time. If you are part of our Locked On Kraken insiders, that's where I'll have the most kind of reaction. But again, I'm expected to be away. I already had these plans. And so of course, the announcement comes. I talked about it on Monday's episode, which for some of you, I know there was a little bit of an issue with the upload. So some of you are probably just seeing that Tuesday, but we've been talking about Dan. He seems like a great candidate. I have heard from some of my insiders, hey, I don't really know much about his success. So later today and throughout the week, if indeed we do get Disco Dan Bylsma, I here on Locked On Kraken am going to get you updated. But here are some cliff notes. So Dan Bylsma, his first stint as a head coach was with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, I'm going to tell you, I wanted to go back to the archives and get a sense of what happened in Pittsburgh. And I'm still doing some recon work here, but the Pittsburgh Penguins did make the postseason every one of the, I believe it was 6 seasons that Dan Bylsma was the head coach. Now, here's the thing. They won the Stanley Cup in his first season. First head coach role, first year with Pittsburgh, and he wins a trophy. That's kind of hard to beat. And of course, there were criticisms because, of course, Malkin and Crosby were on that squad. They're still on the Penguins. And, you know, I think I wonder, I want to read a little bit later in the day and in the week some of the criticisms that we heard about Dan when he was fired from the Penguins, and then see if that holds up. Because Pittsburgh has gone through a few different iterations since Bylsma left. So I just want to break some things down and how much of that was Dan, how much of it was that he was caught up in the Penguins had just hired a new general manager. And the timing of that also seemed kind of interesting, or so some people said at the time. I think it also brings up something that one of my insiders said regarding the assistant coaches, Jay Leach in particular, who was retained by the Seattle Kraken. Whether it's Dan or not, I'm curious to see if Jay remains a part of the coaching staff, or if, like we often see, a head coach is able to bring in their staff, which of course leads to me especially, and Jason JD Hernandez and I think we talked about it a little bit on our family reunion episode, as we've been calling them in air quotes if you're not watching on YouTube, our family reunion episode. Because JD, of course, is the voice of the Coachella Valley Firebirds, a PA announcer. What does this mean for the coaching staff of the Firebirds? Will any of them, especially Jessica Campbell, follow Dan wherever he may go next, if indeed it is the Kraken? Will one of them take the reins as head coach? And I think JD and we were going back and forth, and I've already messaged him. We're going to have hopefully another family reunion episode where we really break this down, because I'm of a few different minds there. And I think there's a lot of potential either way, which is a good problem to have. And I'm very curious what each individual coach has as kind of their big plan. And sometimes you don't take a job, or you do take a job because it leads you to what you want to do most immediately and in the future. And sometimes you have to turn down what is on paper and overwhelmingly considered a great opportunity because it's not the right opportunity for you, and maybe even not the right opportunity at the right time. So I think there's a lot that could go into this. And right now it's just JD and I kind of reflecting a little bit on what we want versus what we believe could happen, but we want to have those conversations. So like I said, we're getting ready for the announcement at the time that I'm recording, about an hour and a half away, the 10:30 a.m. Pacific time announcement. This is what the Seattle Kraken sent us. I'm going to read this just because, I want you to know what we know. And I'll share the screen really quickly here so you can take a look if you're also watching on YouTube. But special announcement, we got this last night. What? Seattle Kraken special announcement. Who? Samantha Holloway, Seattle Kraken owner. Ron Francis, Seattle Kraken general manager. When? Tuesday, May 28th at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. Where? Kraken locker room at KCI, Kraken Community Iceplex. The Kraken will also live stream this event. More information for the live stream will be shared tomorrow, aka today. Please note, media members are asked to arrive no later than 10:15 a.m. If you are unable to attend, a recording of the event will be made available in our Dropbox. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. Thanks, Kraken PR staff. So there you go. Special announcement. Last time we had a special announcement was the extension of both Ron Francis and Dave Haxtell. Dave never got to enjoy that contract extension. But yeah, so there we go, folks. We have a special announcement. Reports from, as I mentioned, the Seattle Times, ESPN, Sportsnet, basically every outlet that I've seen is saying that this is an announcement for the new head coach, and that Dan Bylsma is the pick. So the pick is in. I like this as far as getting this done before the draft, of course. The timing regarding what's happening with the Coachella Valley Firebirds, I think, is up for debate. But again, we'll have more. Just wanted to get you before the announcement, give you my thoughts. And some of you, if you're everydayers and OGers, you probably knew my thoughts already because we've been talking about it. But later today and throughout the rest of the week, we'll do a deeper dive, get to know the new head coach, if indeed that is what the announcement is. And we have one of our affiliates have officially punched their ticket to their first ever Kelly Cup Finals. Congratulations to the Kansas City Mavericks. I am working to get some interviews, not just with Tad, but also with some players, some key players. So we'll talk about that later on today's full episode of Locked On Kraken. But even though it's only a bonus episode, be kind to yourselves, be kind to one another, take time for yourself like I did today. Yeah, maybe some breaking news will happen, but stick to your guns. Take time for yourself. Jokes aside, I will catch you on the next episode, which I am expecting to be later today after the Seattle Kraken special announcement. Until next episode, peace out, everybody.